Today, you will learn everything there is to know about the DJI Mini 2. We've got official specs, official images that leaked, and much, much more. Let's get right to it. Hey guys, Felix here with Quadcopterguide, and I promise this is the last DJI Mini 2 rumors and leaks video. I've got some exciting things coming up on the channel. Check this out. On this channel, I help you get the most out of your drones and other filmmaking gear, so if you're interested in getting the most out of your gear, you want to learn a thing or two, then consider subscribing. Today I will show you how some people already have their DJI Mini 2, what the final specs are, how you can quickly get your own, price, all that. Let's get right to it. The last week was nuts. A nice guy named Manuel went to his local Best Buy and ended up buying the DJI Mini 2. He documented his kind of trip there and also gave us a first look at an unboxing. I believe this is the first DJI Mini 2 in the wild. Best Buy screwed up and allowed the sale too early. They even offered to buy it back from him. He actually got a call from Best Buy and they offered to buy it back for full retail price. He decided to keep it. Now, in case you're wondering, he can't use it yet because, of course, the DJI Fly app, which the Mini 2 will run off of, needs an update for it to work. So he can't register it and he can't really use it, but he's got the drone in his hands. Now, Best Buy is not the only company that screwed up. As a matter of fact, MediaMarkt in Switzerland also screwed up. Now, if you're not familiar, MediaMarkt is a German-based company and it's a big box electronics store, just like Best Buy in the US, but MediaMarkt is in Europe. So what do? They posted production images of the DJI Mini 2, images from DJI that they weren't supposed to publish yet. And we also have a look at the final specs of the Mini 2. And that to me is the most exciting thing. So let's dive into those now. And here it is, the Mini 2. Here we can see the orange tips on the propeller ends of the Mini 2. And besides that, it looks very similar to the Mini 1. Another angle, and here in the back, this is not the bag that you're gonna get with the Fly More combo, by the way. This is the special bag which they had listed for the Mini 1 as well. Another view. Here are the contents of the regular standard package. So if you don't get the Fly More combo, if you want the cheapest version of the Mini 2, then this is what you get. A couple more promo shots. Kinds of images you can capture with it. To the specs, we officially now know that we're gonna get 4K video from the Mini 2. It's gonna be an H.264 encoded file with an MP4 wrapper, just like on the Mini 1, that's fine. We're gonna get 4K at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second. Those same frame rates at 2.7K, and in Full HD 1080p, we get frame rates of up to 60 frames per second. Now, ironically, on the MediaMarkt website, it only lists up to 50 frames per second. Now, I don't know if that's because they decided, hey, nobody in Europe is going to shoot 60 frames per second because we want 25 and 50p here. I don't know. It might be a mistake. The lens is similar to the Mavic Mini 1 in terms of specs, at least. In 35mm equivalent, this is a 24mm lens. Now, in cameras and drones, if the sensor is smaller than 35mm or full frame, then everybody calculates what the kind of focal length or field of view is in terms of a 35mm sensor. This allows you to compare apples to oranges a little better. Photos. Now, this is where things get a little spicy. On the MediaMarkt website, it lists DNG RAW for the Mini 2. Now that is very exciting. Many of you wanted raw photos on the Mini 2, and if somebody didn't screw up on this specs page, that means we're getting raw photos on the Mini 2. That is pretty cool. All right, and drum roll please. OcuSync 2.0 on the DJI Mini 2. What? OcuSync 2.0. Now, for those that don't know, the previous Mavic Mini was based on a Wi-Fi transmission technology, and the range, if you had lots of Wi-Fi hotspots around, or even if you were out in the middle of nowhere, the range wasn't that good. You would get breakup, and if there was even a slight tree branch between you and the drone, then it would affect it. Forget all that now. OcuSync 2.0 is what you have on the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, on the Mavic Air 2, and now on the cheapest entry-level drone from DJI, the DJI Mini 2. This means stronger signal strength, less or basically no interference when you're flying it in a kind of legal distance away from you, probably much further, but you didn't hear that from me and I don't encourage you to do that. Just know that OcuSync 2.0, in my opinion, is feature number 1 on this Mavic Mini 2 or DJI Mini 2. All these names. This translates to a transmission power or transmission strength of up to 10 kilometers of range in FCC mode in an unobstructed perfect environment, and 6 kilometers in CE, SRRC, or MIC mode. And that basically means Europe and everywhere else where there's not FCC mode available. Now later I'll tell you why I feel some of these specs may be wrong. There's a very slim chance, but I wanted to let you know, and I'll tell you guys that in a minute here. And we of course have the Mavic Air 2 style remote. Now the LEDs aren't white, but they're green or something like that. So besides that, I think it's a very similar to exactly the same remote. We now have a larger battery. We get 5,200 milliamp hours instead of 2,600 in the old one. So essentially 2 of the batteries from the old one were put into the grip of this. And of course there's more room for that. So why not do it? And OcuSync 2.0 of course uses more battery than the Wi-Fi. That's just my personal opinion, but it makes a lot of sense. The bandwidth of the video stream from the drone to the remote and your phone or tablet is of course much improved. A lot more video is getting sent, and that requires just more battery power. Hey, real quick, if you're excited about the DJI Mini 2 and you appreciate this content, then do give this video a like. It really does help out, and I appreciate when you guys do that. And I wanted to let you know about my Mavic Mini guide. If you sign up at this URL here or in the description below, you get signed up to a special part of my email list. On there, I inform you when there's further content and training available, which I do not post on YouTube. So if you're interested in that, then do check it out. My goal is to help you become a pro at your Mini, either Mini 1 or Mini 2, in as short of a time as possible. So if you're interested in that, then be sure to check that out. All right, let's get back to the video. We now get standard USB-C on the drone and the remote, so that's nice. You can now kind of consolidate and get rid of more micro USB cables. I personally am happy about that. Now what we don't know is video bandwidth. This is the one big question mark I still have for the DJI Mini 2. There's rumors of it being some kind of a variable video bandwidth, which would be fine, but we still don't know what the maximum video bandwidth is. So what is the largest amount of data per second that we can write to the memory card? It could be 60, I just don't see it being 100, but if DJI wants to put another joker on the table, then it'll be over 60, but I would consider 60 megabits per second out of such a tiny drone very usable. Now the sensor on the new drone is 1/2.3 inch. That's the same sensor size as the Mini 1. And as I mentioned in my previous videos, that was kind of what I was expecting it to be. And also, it's totally fine. That sensor is more than capable of delivering 4K video. The images are 12 megapixels, that hasn't changed. And it'll be interesting to see if the sensor has been upgraded if we compare them side to side. So if you're interested in that, then don't forget to subscribe. I'll be surely testing these things side by side. Now it lists image stabilization as yes. I don't see this being a sensor-based stabilization where the sensor kind of moves and kind of like on the new iPhone 12 Pro or on mirrorless cameras like the Sony Alpha series. I also don't see this being a lens stabilization where the elements in the lens smooth out movement. I think this just means that there's a 3-axis gimbal on board and that's what stabilizes it, which is fine. Gimbals are very good at stabilizing the image. Now, earlier I mentioned that there was something in the specs that could potentially be wrong or be interpreted wrong, and based on the MediaMarkt leak here, it says, "Follow me, yes." I don't think that this means that we're gonna get active track on the Mini 2. I think this just means that with the quick shots, it kind of has you in the frame and it can see where you are based on some contrast detection and fly the quick shots while being kind of focused on you. I don't think this means active track, so don't get your hopes up. Now, speaking of quick shots, we get Droney, Rocket, Circle, Helix, or Felix Helix. Those of you guys that saw my Mavic Air 2 review get that reference. See here if you don't. And Cinesmooth mode. So these modes are just like on the Mini 1. Now, if we compare the specs between the DJI Mini 2 and the old Mavic Mini, there's a couple things that are different. One of these is altitude or max altitude that they were tested or certified for. I know many of you guys let me know that you wish that your Mini flew better at altitude. Maybe you live in a place where you're at a high elevation and the Mini 1 just didn't have enough power to get up in the air as well as you'd hoped for the density altitude. Now, if you recall, the higher up you are, the thinner the air is, so the motors have to work harder to provide the same amount of lift with the propellers as if you were at sea level. So now the new one is rated at 4,000 meters above sea level, and the original Mavic Mini, this was only 3,000 meters. So that alone with a couple other specs makes me hopeful for you guys at a high altitude. Good news. Another thing you guys asked for is better wind fighting resistance to get that drone back against the wind so you can get the thing back to you if you're flying in higher wind conditions. And this has been improved as well. Check out the values here. And part of the way they do this is the original Mini was limited to a 30% angle. I assume this is in sport mode where you get the sharpest angle to fly back to you or fly wherever you want. On the Mini 2, this has been increased to 40 degrees, so 10 more degrees, which gets you this increased wind fighting resistance. Flight time. This has been increased 1 minute to 31 minutes on the Mini 2. So essentially at the end of the day, you're gonna get very similar flight times, maybe just slightly better. And remember, we don't fly in perfect test level conditions. The most efficient way for a drone is to be in a forward flight at a certain angle with no wind and no recording and nothing using energy except for flying, and that's not how you and I fly. Also, to achieve flight times like that, you're gonna run your battery down to a minimum, and channel subscribers know that that is not what you wanna do. The Mini 2 comes in at under 250 grams. I'm not sure if OcuSync 2.0 or this weight is feature number 1 anymore, but that is of course very important in many countries around the world for less registration or no registration with your air authority. Now, interestingly, the box actually says 242 grams. So I wonder if that is the minimum weight of one specific model that they found in testing, or if this will actually come in at much below 249 grams, so you can put things on like ND filter, propeller cage, etc., and still stay under 250 grams. Interesting. The price is confirmed at $599 for the Fly More combo. Now this here is interesting. This here is a new LED strip or status LED on the front of the Mini 2. Is this to show you the pilot just a status update of what mode it's in, flashing different colors? Is this a new requirement of federal regulations across the world to show an LED to the front of the flying object or aircraft? I don't know. I don't think it's going to be bright enough to kind of light up a scene if you're flying in lower light conditions. Maybe there's a trick up DJI sleeve. I guess we're going to have to wait to find out. So how can you get your hands onto your own DJI Mini 2? Well, I advise you to go to this URL here, quadcopterguide.com/subscribe, and if you sign up there, you are entered onto my regular email list, and I send an email out the second it is available for pre-order, and normally this is way earlier than other sources, so that means that you definitely get your order into the first batch. In previous drone launches like this, we've seen that the stock is diminished so quickly that by the time you get the official email, it's already too late and it's sold out. So I invite you to take advantage of that. Rumor is that November 4th is the release date. Another source claims that we might get RAW at a later date, so we might not see RAW at launch. So that is one of those things that's still up in the air. Yes, this specs page does say that we get RAW. Maybe it'll come with a firmware update. I don't know if DJI is gonna wait to see how people react to it not having RAW. This is just rumors. The specs page says we get it. We're gonna have to wait to find out. A quick shout out to the informants out there, and also a special thanks to Jasper and his DJI Mini 2 Facebook group for keeping me in the loop of the latest developments. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that look at the DJI Mini 2. Quite exciting what's coming. Personally, it's better than I expected it would be. Of course, I'm gonna have to test it out, and if you're interested in my review and tests of it, then be sure to subscribe, of course, for more coming soon. And let me know what you think of it. Is it exciting to you? Is it more exciting to you than you thought? Are you gonna upgrade? Is this gonna be your first drone? So many questions. Let me know down below. Let's get into a great conversation together. And in the meantime, check out some of these other videos. There's 2 options here for you. Pick your favorite, and I appreciate you watching. Until next time, see ya.